And it's so brutal, Marcus, that when they went home this morning from Bologna, losing 2-1, the team went with their private jet, with a flight, and he took another plane.
Hi and welcome to the Fußball channel. I'm your host Marcus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjørtoft. And for this special episode on Nuri Şahin's sacking, following 4 straight losses to the start of the year 2025, 1 win in 9 games, the Dortmund board, the Dortmund executive team, and we'll get into that, Dad, have decided to sack Nuri Şahin. Yesterday's 2-1 defeat against Bologna being the tipping point. I've been taught by you, Dad, to not ask yes, no questions, but I will in this case, in terms of its inevitability. Was this sacking inevitable?
Well, hello, Marcus. First, I have to say that I'm a bit, have a cold, as you hear, so I got a bit sexy Rod Stewart-ish voice. Yeah. But as you were saying, Marcus, we just have to take short what has happened. They've lost 4 games. They were also struggling before Christmas, you have to be said, in the Hinrunde. They have 2 rounds in Germany and starting 2025 very bad. Then they lost in Frankfurt. That was last Friday. And Champions League has seemed to save them really the last 2 seasons. Remember, with Edin Terzic as the manager, they managed to get to the final, Dortmund. And now they had a chance against Bologna. I didn't see the game. I just saw the highlights today, but I was live updated. I saw Girassi 1-0. Sahin will kind of save his job then and get another chance against Werder Bremen to make it all right coming the Bundesliga. But then the turnaround was 2-1, and what I understand, it was a very, very bad game for them as well. Then we have to take the timeline here because it's quite interesting how brutal our industry is. Sahin, one of the Dortmund legends, he's been there for 2 periods, coming back as the son of everybody. He is a lovable man. Remember, I have my story with him, Marcus, after they had a bomb attack, and he spoke to me after the game. He was crying on the screen about everything that's happened. Everybody loves Nuri Şahin, but it's all about results. So after the game yesterday, first Matthias Sammer is a special advisor to Watzke, special advisor to Borussia Dortmund, said in a TV interview, like hammered, he threw the team under the bus.
And we can discuss the ramification of that as with Sammer, Watzke, and everything that goes in behind here as well. The fact that Sammer is saying this as well.
Exactly, and that's why I take it in the timeline and we can go into the specific details. Then Lars Ricken says on TV, he says, no, we won't do anything now. We are standing behind him. And I've said his quote before, as Ron Atkinson, the former manager in English clubs, said, I'd rather have them in front of me. And this night, that was true. He was fired after the game. He was fired during the night. And it's so brutal, Marcus, that when they went home this morning from Bologna, losing 2-1, the team went with their private jet, with a flight, and he took another plane. I mean, this is their manager. This is their a legend at Dortmund. Just show you how brutal it is, how orientated we are on the results, and maybe rightly so. But now it's Mike Tullberg, who is an under-19 coach for Dortmund. Mike Tullberg is funny because he's now going to sit on a bench against Werder Bremen. And Mike Tullberg is the same guy who was some weeks ago in Brandbergen in Norway, Marcus. He was the favorite to take over Brandbergen as a coach. He turned them down and said he will keep on his development in Dortmund. He'll be on the bench for their next game. But Lars Ricken says, although I love to have internal candidates doing well, he is not for the long term.
And we will touch upon that in terms of candidates, some familiar faces of that, some that have been taken out of the race as well. Just to take it back before we go into the present and also what's led to it. But in terms of, we have to put into context, and you touched upon in terms of what Nuri Şahin represented. So he was appointed, he was assistant coach for Edin Terzic. You're already then suspecting perhaps that he would take over. And in many ways, in the modern game, he represented the perfect profile. It was a player with over 250 appearances for Dortmund, plenty of experience. One of their youngest debutants, one of their youngest goal scorers, played at Real Madrid, played at Liverpool, came back to Dortmund, as we know, as well. And in many ways, then, like I said, represented the perfect profile. With that being said, what do you think? And perhaps the answer lies in my question, but what do you think Dortmund expected, were hoping when they appointed someone like Nuri Şahin? Because with all that I mentioned there in my question, this was a rather inexperienced coach too. And there must have been a sense of, or an expectation that it wouldn't go perfectly either. What do you think their considerations were then?
Well, in general, you have to say, we talked about this before, Dortmund is same club, same problem, different coaches. So they change all around. If for the English viewers who don't follow German football that much, you can compare them a bit with Tottenham. The only thing that Tottenham never had success, or just in the beginning of the 60s, they had success. By Dortmund, they had it after the Klopp. After Klopp, they've been in a kind of position. He won a lot. He got the double Jurgen Klopp. So after Jurgen Klopp, it's been difficult, to say, quote, difficult. They've changed coaches. To your question, the philosophy, the last two coaches has been more or less Dortmund Jungs, Dortmund boys. You had Edin Terzic, who grew up being a Dortmund fan. And then they took Nuri Şahin in to kind of strengthen his staff. Being like a crown prince waiting for his chance. So then they went again with a Dortmund boy again. And now it's interesting to say, because we've discussed this before, and it's one of my mantra. I always say, see which coach come after one. So if you have a strict coach, sometimes you want someone to come in to hug you a bit and speak wisely with you. But now, of course, after Edin Terzic, after Nuri Şahin, they are looking for the tough one. And the main candidate, and we will go into the rest of them after we're making a deeper analysis in Dortmund, is Niko Kovač. I know Niko very good. And I saw today that he was described as a young Felix Magath, meaning that now they think they need someone coming in with clear rules, clear demands, discipline. But then we go back to Tottenham. If you see them, if you compare it with them, they had Conte, they had Mourinho. Okay, there we go to Ainge, Postecoglou. They had Tuchel. So it's hard. They are kind of walking around in the blind now at Dortmund, unfortunately for the yellow and black great football fans of Dortmund.
We will attempt at least to find the root of the problem, because we are not naive enough to think that it starts and ends with Nuri Şahin. The problems with Dortmund, the loss of identity as to what they represent, has been brewing for a long time. Hence, maybe seeking back to something that resembled their roots under Klopp, with Şahin and sort of that philosophy. But just before we go into that, and for audience that are familiar or less familiar, in terms of what we're referring to, in terms of the internal power struggles, could you just give us a quick breakdown as to who the main guys behind the scenes are? And then we could sort of approach it that way.
Yes, and I will start at the bottom, because in a chain of orders, in a change of an organization, the coach will always be the weakest one somehow in the German model, because he is reporting then in a step up to the bosses. So what is interesting, what you will find, that everybody involved are former players at Dortmund. So they have tried to kind of, like you were saying, go back to the root, trying to have an ideology from bottom to top. So you have Nuri Şahin will have his team. He has also assistant coach Piszczek, who used to play back in the glory days. Interesting as well that the whole staff had to go. But Lars Ricken, who I will come to where he is in the chain orders, he said he wanted to speak to Piszczek about maybe him staying, and Piszczek said, no, I'll go with Nuri Şahin, speaks for him. So there you have the coach, who have his staff with all kind of experts. Then you have, and I don't say Sven Mitzlaff now because he's a recruitment officer, but then you have a kind of a team manager, sports director, Sebastian Kehl, who used to be the captain of Dortmund till he finished his career. Then and he came after Michael Zorc, who was the captain before him. Then you have the CEO, which is Lars Ricken. He's newly appointed. He's been head of the youth department of Dortmund, well known for his chip back in '97 Champions League final, one of the wonder kids of Dortmund, and he's slowly worked his job up or his position up at Dortmund. So there was a discussion: should it be Kehl or Kehl or Ricken who will be the new CEO, because Watzke, who is the bosses of bosses, he's on the top, and he's a kind of Uli Hoeneß at Dortmund, because it doesn't matter which position he's in, you always got a feeling that he decides. He's also one of the most powerful players in terms of leaders in Germany, involved in the league, and his words are very listened to, both internationally and nationally. And then, to make it all a bit more complicated, then you have an advisor, Matthias Sammer, who used to play, of course, for Dortmund back in the days, very influential voice in German football, has been part of winning teams, of course, but also been part of changing the philosophy of German football. So there's a lot of strong people in and around there. But the reason I started at the bottom of the chain is that because they are the victim when they first discussed that, and I guess that's the critic voices who comes up now, because if someone gotta say who's gonna be the coach, so a Kehl, a Ricken, a Watzke, a Sammer, they will all have a part of this misery as well, and as you are firing coaches, as you know, in a chain, if you saw the chain, so if you take this one away, then you get closer to the next one. So the Germans have a great word called Bauernopfer. That means that on the chess, when you do the chess, what do you call the most valuable, the farmers, Bonden of Norwegian?
It will go with that.
Farmer. They go like that. You take them away straight away. So Nuri Şahin here is the Bauernopfer, as was Edin Terzic. And the big thing, and maybe you shouldn't do that, but the big thing is then, if you go on a Sebastian Kehl, Lars Ricken just started in his job, and so on and so on.
And the truth of the matter is that when they brought this team together, Lars Ricken newly appointed, Sebastian Kehl extended his contract. As you mentioned, there was a debate whether it would be Lars Ricken or it would be Sebastian Kehl as CEO as well. You have Watzke then put together this team. Sven Mislintat came back. You had Sebastian Kehl. You had Lars Ricken. You had Nuri Şahin. And within that, there are their internal politics, because Sven Mislintat and Sebastian Kehl will not get along and will not be in the same room. You have Lars Ricken trying to mediate that. You have Kehl and Ricken, I think, who could sympathize rather with Şahin, and Kehl having played with Sahin as well. And the impression was from their statement that they said it with a heavy heart, but nonetheless, it was made. Sven Mislintat was denied access to the performance center where the players were by Sahin. So you already have there this strife developing. Obviously, this is not aligned or sustainable with Dortmund's success, and points to something problematic, and it does have a consequence into the squad planning, because then you'll have a certain type like Sammer who is for Niklas Süle. Then you have Edin Terzic, who wanted Emre Can, who's been under criticism. Then you have the new signings with Bayer. You have Gross, who have been underwhelming at best. My point being is we can discuss these power struggles, but that will, and having been a sporting director yourself, that and having been within football as a player and been across the value chain, that will ultimately have an effect on the performances on the pitch, won't it?
Yes, it will. And you have to have the order here. You have to have a philosophy of the club. So what you have learned about the philosophy when I take the chain orders, the order of chain, is that they want they want to go the Bayern model, that the leader is going to have some kind of Bayern DNA, and Dortmund want the same. You can see that they have taken the leaders, put them into different positions. But there is only one thing that could hide power struggles. There is only one thing that can hide greedy kind of power-seeking leaders, and that's wins. Winning football games. When you win football game, then everything is okay. Then you can get away with it. And then Dortmund started where it started. Yes, they were in the Champions League final, but somehow they've got the image of not winners. And I take two examples. Remember them when they had to beat Mainz at home. That was already just win at home against Mainz. And there was a draw, and Bayern, through a Musiala goal, Tuchel won the championship, they won the Bundesliga trophy. Then the next thing is, now that they're in a position, they're 10th in the league. They're far away from a Champions League place. And as a minimum for them is to stay in the Champions League, to be a Champions League contender. If you add then to it that they have some of the best fans in the world, the greatest stadium. I've spoken about my love for this stadium. Everybody who loves football need to be one time going to Signal Iduna Park and see the yellow wall and all that. So it's a kind of, they have kind of set up a system for success, but they're not bringing success. So, and then the third thing is that I think that's broken them terribly. And now I'll take another example from English football, is that when Arsenal, after 2 years, finally City broke down, Liverpool is ahead of us. And when everybody thought that Dortmund, after many, many years, been second to Bayern, who are going to stop them? It's going to be Dortmund, right? No, it's Bayer Leverkusen. So that position has been hard for them as well, because they have always been the main challenger, so to say. So I think that if I kind of go defend them, be the lawyer for their philosophy, I think they have a philosophy. I think they think that this is the right thing to do.
And what is that philosophy? If I challenge you,
the philosophy, the philosophy is, like I started with the leaders. The leaders should have the Dortmund DNA. Where their philosophy has been very strong is that they've always signed good players and made them into great. They have signed players, made them into money. Lewandowski, although he went on a free, but it just shows you that kind of talent you take in. Sancho, Bellingham, and Dembele, Erling Haaland. They have got a lot of players in and make them better. But you can only do that for a certain time, because there is just a few number of players. We are talking about some of the best players turn into some of the best players in the world. And when that's not happening, what do you do then? Okay, Gross from Brighton. Okay, like use him as an example. Emre Can. All the players. Okay, then before this season, they said, okay, now we have to Marco Reus. Now you have to go away. You've been a fantastic player, but we have to, but only one player. So I would say the last year they have become a bit. There is a lack of identity, and I think that they feel that themselves, that they're not sure which way they're going to go. Of course, then the responsibility lies mostly by Sebastian Kehl, who is the head of kind of the sports department.
And Dortmund have a big decision to make now, because it begs the question, now what? Who do we want to be? And what do we want to represent? And while we have explained that the manager, or the head coach, will be at the, not at the very top of that food chain, but maybe level 3, 4 in terms of that hierarchy.
But still, just to not be misunderstood, but still the main man, because he is the one who takes charge. He is the one who talks to the media and so on.
Absolutely. And perhaps Dortmund need then a certain type of character to take charge. They've tried it with the young, promising Dortmund lad. Now with managers being linked, we've seen Ten Hag, we've even seen Hoeneß, we've seen Roger Schmidt, but he is denied any sort of involvement. until the summer at the very least. And now the one being heavily reported, as we touched upon in the beginning of the episode, is Niko Kovač. Who do you first see as the best fit for Dortmund, and what sort of pathway do you think they should take? And I guess that would feed into which manager they should then choose.
Yeah, good point, because they have to start with what are they looking for? They're looking for a coach that can stay on for 2.5 years, 3 years, 3.5 years. Is a guy that can take over the project. That could be, for example, Sahin, who's done a fantastic job by Stuttgart, but there's no chance that he will leave Stuttgart end of January in a season. That is no chance. Ten Hag, there are some good people we follow in Germany, reliable people we follow in Germany, and they said that Ten Hag been conversations. Remember, he has a background being in Bayern when Pep Guardiola was there. He was a reserve team coach there, but he's not available now. He wants to wait. That's the problem, Marcus. If you have a job, you want to stay in the job, except Amorim, and you see where that has gone. When he wanted to wait to the summer as well to get a club, but he has to take over Manchester United in a tough time. So that is some candidates. Then you have to look for coaches who will not have a club. We start with Ten Hag, and then you have to see, will he accept our candidate to be interim coach, meaning that can he stay till the summer? Can he save us? Can he get us into Europe? Can he get us into Champions League? And the one who is the hottest now is Niko Kovač. I know Niko Kovač as a player. I used to play against the Croatian guy when I was in the Bundesliga. He played for Hertha, Bayer Leverkusen. He played for Bayern Munich. I've known him the last years because I was a team manager for Norway when he was in Croatia. And he's a great lad. He's always come with his brother, Robert. He's his assistant coach. He's seen as a very hard-working coach. I remember when he was at Frankfurt, his big success by Frankfurt, winning the Pokal final, winning the cup final, of course, and then he went to Bayern, Niko Kovač. So very hard-working guy, tough guy, like he was as a player. So maybe that is the image they're looking for. If they then say, okay, you stay till the summer, and then you still got a chance if everything is functioning. There's a great connection between the team and him that he can stay on. I will speculate that Sahin will be their wish candidate, but he's not available. So then you have a Roger Schmidt, who was used to be at Benfica, got a great reputation in German football. He is out of job. So there is a usual candidates, but based on, and we don't know now because maybe they have a new one tomorrow, but they've said that Mike Tulberg, the under 19 coach, will be there on Saturday, but maybe their appointment is quite ready to be done. We don't know that, but I would think that when you see the role that needs to be filled, that it's Niko Kovač should tick most boxes, and then we'll see if he's available. He was last job he had was Wolfsburg, and he's been out of job since that.
Yes, and it will be seen. I mean, in terms of the candidates listed, if it's someone like Niko Kovač who's willing to take on the job, who can prove himself for the job, but also give Dortmund the flexibility to go through a thorough managerial or head coach pursuit in the summer, maybe that's the most ideal. 8 coaches in 10 years it's been for Dortmund. Let us know what you think, what went wrong for the former, I guess, Dortmund favorite Şahin. What next? What should they be seeking for? Let us know in the comments, and we love to have a conversation, hear your opinions on that and take that further. But I think with that, we conclude our little special on Şahin and Dortmund. This certainly won't be the last we speak of them, as Tulberg takes on the Dortmund team against Bremen at the weekend. And with that, Dad, we'll be shortly back doing a few more specials, and next being our Marmouche special.